Hello everyone, it's Kane here. My Instagram handle is at KennyKane1972. I've got a Twitter account, but we have more fun on Instagram. And I do a weekly podcast with my good friend Lee Gunner and another weekly podcast as well, where all three of us work with Jez Collins as well. So if you want to watch our weekly podcast with myself, Lee and Jez Collins, every Monday on Lee Gunner's channel at 5 o'clock. And obviously, if you want to follow me on the Instagram, you can follow me at KennyKane1972. But you don't want to hear about all of that boring talk. You want to talk about the North London Derby, because that's what we're here for. Massive game, the biggest game in our calendar. We won the first game in October at the Emirates Stadium. Now we've got to return at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But in terms of what have I made of Arsenal season? A+. It's been fantastic. You know, a lot of people didn't have us down as challenging for the league. A lot of people probably surprised by our progress this season, but you can't knock it. You know, out of all the games we played this season, we've only drawn twice, once at home at Newcastle, drawn away to Southampton, and lost at Old Trafford. Apart from that, we've had maximum points. You can't knock it. You can't just knock the fact that we got maximum points. So, you know, it's been a fantastic return for the football club. Absolutely brilliant. You can't ask for any more in terms of, like, you know, the players that really stand out. Obviously, Granit Xhaka's getting a lot of plaudits, and rightly so, because he's turned it around. There's a lot of Arsenal fans who have felt a bit indifferent to Granit, and, you know, he's probably playing the best football of his career. But our most, if you want me to rephrase that, our best players this season are just three players. You know, Thomas Partey, Saka, and Odegaard. And you have to give a special mention to Thomas Partey, because he is our team. You know, a lot of people used to say that Xhaka was Arsenal's midfield. No, it's Thomas Partey. You take Thomas Partey out of our side, and we struggle immensely without him. He is the one who protects the defence. He is the one who makes the link between the midfield and the attack. He's the one who enables Xhaka to play in a more advanced role. He enables Odegaard, you know, to create behind our strikers. So, you know, Thomas Partey is so vital to the way we play. And, you know, I can't imagine an Arsenal team without Thomas, because Thomas is just, as I said, he is the top class player for me. In terms of where am I surprised where we are this season? Well, the fact is, I can't say I am, because that's what I've been asking for. And I know people say, well, you know, you were critical of the team last season. I was critical because I've always argued, and that goes alongside my allies, Jez Collins and Lee Gunner, that Arsenal should be challenged for the title every season, because we're the Arsenal. Not because we're the Arsenal, but we're the third biggest club in the country. So on that aspect, we shouldn't be, fighting any team for the top four. We should be aiming a bit higher, because those are the standards that be set by, you know, George Graham. Before that, it was Herbert Chapman and Bertie Mee, and then obviously Arsene Wenger. So that's where the standards have to be. You have to aim higher. You know, in terms of, like, you know, where I think we're going to go. In terms of, do I think we generally think we can win the league? Well, at the moment we're playing really good football. We haven't had major injuries. The only major injury we've had to is Jesus. But in terms of our capabilities to go for that title, we are in a title race without doubt. But I understand the question that has been asked. Have we got a squad as strong as Man City's? No, the squad is too thin, and that's why we have to buy in January. We need to. I always believe we should have got another striker anyway, regardless of whether Jesus or Eddie were fit. We needed a first striker to give us a bit of variety. If we get that first striker, then obviously we're good to go. Obviously in midfield as well, keeping Partey fit is imperative, but it could be impossible for him to stay fit throughout the season. So we need another midfielder, maybe Douglas Luiz from, Villa. He's a player that, who we were trying to buy just before the previous, transfer window. So again, those two areas, midfield and up top, is where we probably need, you know, like I said, the reinforcements. Obviously, we're looking at Yao Felix, who's got the Chelsea, and obviously the Modric as well. Although Modric tends to play on the both sides of the flanks, but that's, you know, where I think Arsenal can win this league is if we get strength in depth. However, you know, we've got some games to negotiate, the North London derby, you know, and you know, games away from home, which include the North London derby. Also, going to places like St James's Park, going to Anfield, going to the Etihad, and, you know, even Goodison Park. And then I haven't even mentioned Anfield, and those are the areas, if we can negotiate these fixtures and come out unscathed, then we've got a very good chance of winning this title. You know, I can't, you know, generally like. In terms of Spurs this season, well, you know, I'm just going through the same ground that I went through when we spoke on the eve of the first Northern derby in October. One of the things that, you know, surprised me is that I expected Spurs, you know, to actually find their form, find you know, a clear style of play. And, you know, going into that North London derby, Spurs are unbeaten. But since then, I think Spurs have kind of taken a bit of a downward spiral. I ain't going to lie. And, you know, there were a lot of, we call in London, second half Tottenham, where the first half is just don't turn up, Tottenham. Then the second half, they're relying on their players like Harry Kane, Song, and, you know, players like Kulusevski and Richarlison to get them out of trouble. And for 75% of the season, that has worked. But I don't think in terms of how Spurs fans are gonna, you know, are taking it. I can only talk about the Spurs fans I speak to, because, you know, I'm getting the impression that there's obviously fans are going to back Conte because he got you into the top four, and, you know, that was like the alpha and omega of Tottenham. But there's also, I believe, a silent 50% of fans who are dissatisfied with the way the team is playing, dissatisfied with certain players like Emerson Royale, and they're dissatisfied with Conte himself because of his probably not so much his lack of commitment, because I'm not privy to all of that, but they do not like the style of play. And that is something that, you know, that is a theme to some of my friends and family who support Tottenham, and they are not happy with his style of play. In terms of will Conte be a success at Tottenham? Well, it depends if he's got a long-term plan, because normally he stays at clubs for at least, and I say at least, 3 years, and then, you know, something goes wrong in terms of if he doesn't get the continual finance, then there's a problem. There was a problem at Chelsea where he fell out with Granit Xhaka. Obviously, there was a problem in Internazionale when they wouldn't give him the expenditure after he won the championship, and also, you know, there's problems as well in terms of, like, he's dissatisfied with the players he's got. He's quoted that, and he says that, you know, Spurs lack a bit of creativity, and I have to agree with him on that, because, you know, you got players of yesteryear like Eriksen, who was basically your creative hub under Pochettino. For those, you know, those times when Spurs were a very, very good team to watch and a very hard team to beat, and they were obviously ahead of us in terms of league positions. And also, you miss probably a midfielder who can chip in with goals and make those runs from midfield and getting past the attack. And that player was Dele Alli. But what's happened to him? So maybe you've got a couple of players like Dele Alli, types who can score from midfield and get a bit of creativity as well. In like Eriksen, I know you've got Bentancur, but I do feel that, you know, those are the kind of players that Tottenham are missing. If he gets those kind of players, then he will be successful, but he has to be there long term. It depends on Levy. Spurs have got two problems, in my opinion, in terms of if they want success. One of them's called Daniel, and the other one's called Levy, and that's an Arsenal supporter saying that. So in terms of this season, you know, you don't want to go 15 years without winning a trophy. So the FA Cup is imperative for Tottenham. You've got to win the FA Cup. And also you've got to, you know, have not shadow books at the Champions League, have a go like you did, you know, 4 years ago when you got to the final. So this is where I think, you know, where Spurs got to improve, because, you know, I don't think Spurs fans can take too long without a trophy. A club of your size shouldn't be going 15 years without winning silverware. In terms of Harry Kane, well, you know, it's a given, isn't it? He loves North London derbies. In all the North London derbies he's played in since 2015, he probably hasn't scored in about 4 of them, but all the rest of them he scores. You know, either it's the Emirates or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the old White Hart Lane, Harry Kane is a player who, you know, is very much of a success story for your club. But for me, he is probably one of the best strikers in Europe, and he is a player that I definitely fear the most, because there's Harry Kane before Mourinho and the Harry Kane after Mourinho, where he is the complete footballer. And I don't mean complete strike, complete footballer. He can play in a deep line role, and you know, he's got excellent passing ability from that role, and he's got, you know, the vision as well, where players like, you know, Richarlison, who's obviously were making the runs, also Son was making the runs, and obviously Kulusevski. So he's going to be very up for the North London derby. And, you know, he is a player that I do fear, I do respect. I know I'm a big admirer for a gritty teeth of Son, but, you know, Harry Kane's, you know, numbers this season have been amazing. And let's face it, for the last couple of years they have as well. So he's a player I definitely fear. And he also, you know, he steps up in North London derbies. In terms of my favourite North London derby moments, obviously, if you go to my Instagram, I'm doing a series of, you know, reminding Arsenal fans really of that we actually used to win at your ground. So it's victories at White Hart Lane. My favourite one was the 26th of December 1983. Raphael Mead got a couple of goals. Raphael Mead, a Hornsey rise. And Charlie Nichols got a couple of goals in a 4-2 victory. And obviously those 3 games in 1986-87, where we won 2-1 at your ground. And obviously the season after we won 2-1. But obviously, you know, the game on the 4th of January, Paul Davis and Tony Adams at 2-1. And then the League Cup games when we won 1-0 down. In the first leg, Clive Allen again. And then we won the second leg, the replay 2-1 goals. Obviously the replay with where, God bless his soul, David Rocastle, you know, got the winner and sent us into Wembley. But obviously there was a game again 8 years ago now, when Flamini got a couple of goals. So these are kind of the North London derby moments you do remember. And obviously, you know, there's a couple of semi-finals at Old Trafford in 2001, and obviously the games at Wembley when we got revenge when Tony Owens got the goals. But it's always good to win at your ground, and that's the kind of the kind of criteria that I'm looking for. You know, a win at Spurs' ground is just as pleasurable, probably a little bit more pleasurable than winning at the Emirates. In terms of like Arsenal players who are getting in the Tottenham side, well, I think that 9 out of 11 of the players we're getting, the only 2 players that who are staying at Spurs side are Son and Kane. Son and Kane, because they're who I regard as top class players. You know, I think they probably are world class, and they're the players that I fear every time. You know, I go to North London derbies at the Emirates Stadium and at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. 2 players I want to be injured at all times is Kane and Son. They're your 2 best players. They're the players that I wouldn't mind having at the Arsenal. In terms of like, if I could sign a Spurs player, it's Harry Kane. I mean, let's not forget Harry Kane was an Arsenal junior. He was a goalkeeper first and foremost for the Arsenal. Then he started to play up front. Obviously, he didn't make it through our youngsters, and he went on to Watford, and he got his gig at Spurs, and he hasn't looked back. But I don't know, man. You Spurs fans say he's one of your own. You're entitled to say that because he's come through the ranks. But let's not forget, we had him first. In terms of like where I think Spurs and Arsenal will finish, I think Spurs are in a very precarious position if they do not, you know, like I said, sort their form and start playing the kind of football that, you know, I think Spurs, you know, with the sort of managers they have, should be playing. Then I think that they probably will miss out the top 4, because you've got to think about Newcastle. They're in excellent form at the moment. They haven't lost since August. Man United are now playing a kind of football and playing, you know, kind of tempo that Ten Hag has been asking from day one. So they're going to be very difficult to beat as well. And, you know, you've got Spurs' games as well. You know, they've got games against Man United at at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, got 2 games out of Man City, they got Liverpool away, they got us, of course. So those are sort of situations where, you know, Spurs have to keep, you know, players like Kulusevski fit, got to keep Connors, not Kane and Song fit. So if you can keep those 2 players fit, then you all got a chance. But, you know, you've got 2 very strong teams in Newcastle and Man United to negotiate. And then obviously you don't know what's going to happen with Chelsea. I think Chelsea are probably out of it, but you just never know. Football's, as Greavesy says, is a funny old game. In terms of Arsenal, well, if we don't, you know, enhance our squad and get a few reinforcements, and we don't negotiate games away to Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, obviously Spurs as well, and then and maybe Everton for some reason we struggle as well, then, you know, questions need to be asked about our credentials. But if we keep on winning, then mathematically we'll win this title. But it's those games that are going to be key to our chance of winning the title. In terms of like our team picks itself, the predicted lineup, you know, same team that playing against Newcastle, same back four. Ramsdale's going to be in goal, the same back four that picks itself, you know, like Shevchenko, Shevchenko, Benjamin White, 2 centre-halves in Saliba and Gabriel, midfield 3 of Odegaard, Partey, and obviously players like Xhaka, the player who a lot of Arsenal fans think is the player of the season, but we already touched on that. And obviously the front 3 picks itself in Saka, Eddie Nketiah deputising for Jesus, and obviously Martinelli. That all 3 of them at the time picked themselves, and they're all of, if not most of our players are in good form, so they pick themselves. And in terms of Spurs, it depends on the injuries, really. You know, obviously, you know, Richarlison is going to be out for a while, but, you know, with Kulusevski, like I said, come back. If Kulusevski comes back to the side, do you play him in a front 3 alongside Kane and Song? And then do you play Perisic in the midfield alongside Bentancur? And, you know, Bentancur, you know, in terms of your back 4, we know that Longley is going to play. We know that Romero is going to play alongside him. Again, who are you going to be your fullbacks? Is it going to be Doherty? Or does Doherty play his best football as a right wing back? If you go with, you know, like wing backs, and obviously Perisic, what position you're going to play Perisic? You're going to play him on the left, you're going to play him on the right. So these are a lot of, you know, questions which Conte needs to kind of work out, because I think our starting lineup is probably a lot clearer than Spurs' because of the fact that, you know, we've got a settled side, while Spurs, you know, I think they've tried quite a few players at right back. You know, they've tried Doherty there at the time, Emerson Royale. And, you know, in terms of centre-backs, they've also tried, you know, Sanchez in those sort of positions as well, in terms of, you know what I mean? So, again, it's one of those areas where you do have, you know, kind of, like I said, question marks over, you know, where Spurs are going to play. And obviously, Lloris as well has to be on his mettle. You know, he does, you know, tend to, you know, like I said, make the odd mistake here and there. But if he leads from the front, then it could be a really great game. But in terms of our record at Tottenham, it's horrendous. It's really horrendous. You know, we've only won once in 16 years since we won 3-1 in 2007 in the league, and that was when Zicky scored in the first 2 minutes. Apart from that, we either get a point or we get stuffed by Tottenham, so hopefully things will change. So I want to say like a big thank you to Chris for giving me this chance again, and also say thank you to all the viewers of Chris's channel. And I'm gonna bid farewell to all of you. I'll be at the game, so be gentle with me, please. And all I'm going to say is that before I go, I want to give you all a reminder. That's you Arsenal fans, that our biggest game of the season is Spurs. Our rivals are Tottenham. It's a North London thing, you see. Our rivals ain't Chelsea, Man City, Man United or Liverpool. It's Tottenham. So I'll say a big goodbye, and also, come on you Reds!